There we Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite warlock, practicing necromancer. And I know some of you have been reaching out to me personally and asking for a video on the theory of practice. How is it performed? What are the applications of it? And how can you achieve benefits? Well, it's taken me a couple of weeks, so here it is. Okay, welcome to the channel, or I should say, welcome back. In the Black Tower, welcome to the channel again. So, I'm going to point out a few realistic things that happen in the world on a day to day basis. But I'm also going to be discussing magical practices, things that you can do to better enhance your own personal practices. A lot of times when you get on social media, such as Facebook or, say, for an example, TikTok, well, even right here on YouTube, you're seeing polls, you're seeing, how should I say this, research and everything on, say, for example, the dating scene. Okay, one of the biggest things right now is how 63% of men have left the dating scene. Okay, women have requested aid in the gym, and men are no longer helping them. Okay, they're barely even communing with women at the workforce. Okay, so women are getting pissed about this. The most recent one is how women in today's culture are getting pissed at women from other countries for stealing their men. Okay, so this is what's the biggest thing going down right now. And then you have all these con artists, such as prostitutes and everything, and just, people wanting to gain profit just to meet up with you. Okay. If you think about it, prostitutes used to be on every street corner. But because of local law enforcement's cracking down, they've moved from street corners to social media apps such as dating apps, hookup apps, and just Facebook as well. Even if you get on, say, for example, TikTok, and you end up befriending somebody and you start talking, they will ask, "How much can you give me?" It's always about what you as a man can give them. Okay, so where's the benefit for a man to get with a woman today? Okay, this is an application right here, number one. Okay, in the African Caribbean traditions, there was a thing called an amari. Okay, an amari deals with love, compassion, hookups. Bringing a lover or a mate to you for any number of topics. Okay, from, say, for an example, one night hookups to actually finding a woman to settle down with and marry you. There's even the, say, for an example, the zombie effect from Haitian Voodoo, where you can actually control an individual in that way. They have no mind, no will. They just follow the Bokor or Capilata's orders. Okay. There's even herbs that come from South America, Central America, even, that literally take away somebody's willpower. It's, if you think about it, it's similar to taking away somebody's rights, if you will, to choose freely. Okay, in this particular drug, it literally prevents you from being, how should I say this nicely, is you can't say no. You just simply become more complacent. Okay. And Amari does this. A love spell or a lust spell does this type of thing. It takes away that person's ability to choose. Okay. To choose to become your girlfriend, your husband, your wife or boyfriend or whatever. Okay. Whatever you're seeking, it removes that right to choose freely. Okay. Now, black magic, magia negra, for an example, is one of those black magical forms that literally you can go at somebody in a way that takes away all injustices and makes it into a balance. For an example, in high school, you have different classifications, and it's always the geek or the loser that gets picked on, right? Now, what would happen if that loser, that geek, decided, you know what, I'm going to go to the local library, or I'm going to order a whole bunch of books on black magic, sorcery, spell casting, spiritual conjurations, demonolatry, even, and I'm going to learn both low and high witchcraft. Okay. Now, in this setting, you're learning the applications of seals, geometric shapes. You're learning what spirits can help you and benefit you in that area, that arena. So, from this point on, you're going to be learning all about love spells, about herbalism, about attraction, the laws of physics. Okay. There are things that you can do, such as, say, for an example, rose petals, putting it in a gris gris bag and putting it underneath the pillow. Okay. Soaking in a bath of lavender, learning the art of seduction. You see, there's an old expression which says to chase after butterflies, they will flee from you. But if you learn to build your garden, they will flock to you. Even Christianity, for an example, has a verse about relationships, three types to be precise. The first is friendship, second is courting, and the third is marriage. Okay? Now, what's ironic here is that every minister will tell you to get into a relationship, you are required to date for an entire year. This is after you've already gone a year without any form of intimacy whatsoever. That means no masturbation, no sex hookups, no nothing. You have to go a year without having anything to do with that. Hell, even in grimoire traditions, that is mandatory before performing any type of rite, any form of ritual. By adding this in, you go to the next stage. You're no longer, you've become friends with an individual. You're learning about them, gaining that trust, that firm foundation. You're building on your career, your spirituality. At the same time, you're becoming closer to Deitas. This application is a magical aspect where you form a relationship with a demon or a jinn or an orisha or a loa, some form of angelic being, or even a god or goddess that will be a guide in this area of practice. So you see, the firm foundation begins by studying. You begin studying, then you begin to expand your knowledge. Once you've expanded and cross referenced everything, Then you become an alchemist in a sense, because when you become that alchemist, you begin the experimentation phase, finding out what works and what doesn't. Then you have to sit there and resculpt your formula. Think back to The Warlock, starring Julian Sands. The second movie in that series shows the Warlock being born of a woman who had no relations whatsoever. Kind of like being born of a virgin. Matthew chapter 1. Okay. For an example, which is kind of ironic. So here the Warlock is born. He grows up quickly, within a matter of seconds or a matter of minutes in that movie. But then he goes on a killing spree. He goes on a journey to find the stones of the druids to tip the balance into the forces of darkness. But along that journey, he's making deals. He's performing the art of seduction. He's not spewing a bunch of nonsense or words. In the 48 Laws of Power, one of the main laws says, speak less than necessary. Speak less than necessary. Ironic how that works, isn't it? Because when you listen to how people speak, how much they just banter, they just rave on and on and on. All you have to do is just sit back and listen. You see, Julian Sands' character in The Warlock did that. He listened, and then he made the calculated move. Certain phrases. Well, what if I can give you the best piece in your museum? And then he turns the guy into a work of art. Or, if you really want to, let's take it to the fashion runway, where he takes the designer up to the roof and makes a deal with her. If I show you true witchcraft, that witchcraft is real, you give me that diamond, that stone. And he floats up into the air with her in his arms. Learning the art of flying, even Peter Haining in the Warlock's Grimoire, or the Grimoire of the Warlock, which I do have sitting right over here, by the way, has a flying potion in it, where it deals with the fat of a child. Ironically, in the very first Warlock movie, they actually mention this. Not the author or the book, but it deals with the true Grimoire. Okay? Now, well, technically it's a hunt for the true Grimoire, is how that storyline goes. Just like in the second one, it's the 5 stones, and in the third one, it is about the last living relative of a certain witch family. Okay? So each stage, you're seeing the growth, the maturity, the adaptation, the formula becoming perfected. Now, what is it in the third one that Julian Sands' character said to that white witch? With every spell that you have, I have dozens to counteract it. Now, how do you perform that without first studying, learning, and experimentation? You become the alchemist. Now, the theory and practice of the art of seduction, or even through spell casting, is the balancing equation of the rites. Okay. You have to have that free will, but you want the universe to have its will. You want to attract somebody into your life. You don't go out and go, hey, I want you in my life. Let's have kids. Wow. Really? That really doesn't work. We all know that women, for an example, are fickle creatures. They literally have made up their mind about you in the first 10 seconds. From the way you dress, to the way you present yourself, to the way you even speak. If you're an educated man, well, guess what? You find yourself more and more in solitude. They speak on how we want men to elevate themselves and take care of us. Really? What about you? What are you bringing to the table? You see a witch or a warlock coming together, you come from the same cloth. Witchcraft is done through gray magic. There is no white, there is no black. It's just simply gray. Why? Because you can utilize magic for both destructive and creative means. This means balance must be upheld, taking an injustice and making it justice. But if you are doing a spell just to bring somebody into your life, how do you perform that? How do you bring it forth? How do you bring it to fruition? Well, let's take wealth magic for an example. One of the things that I recommended to a client of mine, a friend of mine that was seeking to bring financial prosperity into his life, I said, you get a black velvet grist bag. You add in equal parts of thyme, basil, parsley, and amber. I would also recommend sea salt for purity of intent. You want to charge it up with your specific need, in this case, financial prosperity. You want to carry it on you throughout the day, every single day, until that prosperity is met. When it's not being used, then you want to put it on an altar, on your altar. Okay, you want to put it in the dark so it continues to charge. Within a few weeks, he came back and he said, I normally get $300 by the end of the quarter. Since I did that right, I ended up with $700. That's $400 more than what he was normally getting. Now you look at that application. How did he do it? How did he do this? Well, he went out, he got the herbs. He got the small velvet bag that he could put in his pocket. Or you could put it into a necklace. Let it hang around your neck. He carried it on him throughout the day. This meant every store he went in, every coffee shop he went in, throughout his day at work. Even when he was home, he had it on him. But bed, when he went to bed, he put it on his altar. Okay? So the theory is your intent. What is it? Can you see from start to finish your intent coming to fruition, coming into reality? Can you see the steps from start to finish unfolding? Do you have the items necessary to perform that particular rite? It does not matter if it's a mojo bag, a grist, a hex bag. It doesn't matter if it's a Trapejo or an Amari. It does not matter. What comes down to is the difference between ceremonial and ritualized practice. You see, a ceremony is a lot different from doing a ritual. And what this particular rite was a ritual. This is what you did to achieve your outcome. In this case, you're learning the art of seduction. You're learning how to utilize words to play and get an emotional reply from your potential partner. Or you're learning how to put together an herbal supplement that will benefit you financially. Okay. Now, when I say focus on creating your garden, what I'm talking about is focus on your business, focus on you and improving yourself, your knowledge, your practices, making it a fine tool in an arsenal. Think of Eliphas Levi for an example. When he first got into necromancy, while he was in London, England, he met up with a secret society, and it was always one person. This one story, from Richard Cavendish's The Black Arts to the Doctrines of High Magic, hell, even Francis Barrett's The Magus, Volume 1, all speak to this particular rite that scared him so bad that he went back to Hermetism. Okay? Now, what's ironic here is that it shows him in a carriage with a woman who was dressed head to tail in black, even the black veil. She gave him a list of items that he would need to be required to go out, gather, and then find a location that was ample enough where he would not be disturbed. This is ceremonial magic, and in the form of necromancy, spirits don't come when you first call them. They come when you least expect it. This means that it could take hours, days even. When you're performing a rite of ascension, it's going to take days. You have to have at least a week or two, even up to 3 months, if not longer, of extreme solitude before they even show up, before you even hear their voice, before you even understand what they have to offer you. Okay? So in this case, he went out, he gathered all the herbs, all the items required. He went to this one location. He did the circle, the triangle of evocation. He placed the herbs, the bag of herbs, in the triangle, and he began to recite the incantation. Now, the way it transpires is the spirit appeared in front of him, disappeared, appeared next to him, laid its hand on his shoulder, and his entire arm went numb. That was the first and only time that he practiced necromancy in ceremonial pursuits. Now, what do we gather from this? Okay, when you look at it, the theory is how to manifest or conjure a spirit. You need the herbs, the geometric shapes. You need a nice, quiet, semi-dark location, such as an abandoned building, a cemetery, or say, for example, a ritual room, a temple, wherever, to be able to practice the ceremonial rite. Sometimes it will leave you so tired that you'll sleep for days. Other times, it'll scare you to the point where you run back to your former religion. Not everybody is, well, made for the dark arts. So, knowing that, what can we gather from this? How do you perform this? The one thing, since I began my journey 6 years ago into necromancy, it wasn't until 4 years ago that I dedicated my life strictly to necromantic rites and rituals. Since then, I couldn't believe that I have 7 essays written. I'm talking 4,000 words per essay. Okay. Second of all, since January, I went into some seclusion. I got off social media for months. I only stepped on foot, back on social media every so often to do a video on something that caught my attention or caught my fancy, things that I thought you might need to know about. And it was interesting because while I was in seclusion, my sole intent was spiritual. I wanted to learn psionics. I wanted to learn how to perform more vile magics. Okay. And the ironic part is that when I first did my first ritual this year, which was about 3 months in, this is after I'd made one pact, one literal blood pact, by the way, creating my intention, bringing in my patroness, bringing in the patron of the path that I follow, bringing in the spirits that I work with, performing a dedicated ceremonial rite. I performed this rite for this client, and it was amazing. Within 3 weeks, it came to fruition. I did another rite, and then another, and another. I ended up having 4 rites by the time the 6 months came around. 4 rites in 1 year, just this year alone. And the funny thing is that my magic is more potent today than it had been the 30 years prior. Now, why is that? Why is that? I'll tell you. It is because I've dedicated myself to the magic, to the sorcery, to getting closer to the spirits that I work with. Mm, very much so, the Black Tower. And it is true. I've had people that come to me and say that they're attracted to me. I said, "You're not attracted to me. You're attracted to the darkness that surrounds me in my world." Because I work with demons and because I work with the forces of darkness, I've aligned myself with the forces of darkness. This is why you're attracted to me, because of the power that I work with. I'm not the most powerful sorcerer out there, and I'll tell you that. But what I can tell you is that what you're attracted to is that darkness, not me. Now, if you resonate with what I'm saying and what I'm doing, that's all good. Okay? But you're not attracted to me personally. And it's funny how that happens more than you realize. And when you get into rituals and you get into ceremonies, and you're learning the applications of both, you're learning about the tools, naming them, creating them, consecrating them for specific rites and rituals, be it, say, for example, destruction rituals, or hexes, curses, or even jinxes, even. I've had a customer who wanted to retaliate for let's just call it the way it is, a cheating spouse. Okay. And what's interesting here is this individual had over a half a dozen side chicks. He was very well known for having at least 6 or more concubines, if you will, on the side. When I did this right, within a few weeks, all of a sudden they became obsessed with him. He basically said fuck you to them. And here we are a couple of months down the road, and he's wanting to get back together with the original. Now, why is that? It's called the law of attraction. Okay. You have to give to receive. And that old expression about you reaping what you sow is very much true. You see, a well balanced practitioner will both heal and can destroy. If you are a Polero or you are a Marimberos, a Brua or a Bruo, and you are running a Botanica, you have all these herbs, all these candles, all these rites, and you have a specific room dedicated to the Orisha, right? It would be like going into voodoo, a peristyle, and seeing different shrines to the Radha or the Petro, the Gadi family of Loa, okay? And it's interesting because of the fact that a lot of people who claim that they are practitioners, they do not understand the different classifications of spirits and what they can bring to you. For an example, I was having a conversation with one of my apprentices, and we were talking about financial prosperity. Now, I had already mentioned this little griscos bag with all these herbs in it to him once before, but we were talking about Sabnuk, and we are also talking about Boon. And I told him, I said, think of these demonic entities as spiritual guides, helpers even. They will only help you to a point before they cut the umbilical cord and you're on your own. Not every spirit is going to be with you for life. They're not going to help you forever. Eventually, you're going to have to learn to do this stuff on your own. Now, here it is. I told this apprentice, if I was going to work with Boone for financial prosperity, I would also bring in Viney for protection purposes, to guard my wealth, to guard my six, to watch my six, so that my investments are secure. But while I'm doing this, I would also look at seals and sigils. Okay, get into the runes, if you will, of Nordic or Gaelic traditions. Looking at more modernized paganism or white light practitioners' methods of utilizing crystals such as gems, looking at crystals such as quartz. The bigger the quartz crystal, the more power it generates, and you can charge it for protection. Okay. Putting them on the four corners or the four cardinal directions of your home protects your home. Now, look at amulets for an example, or talismans, I should say. If you're utilizing talismans, what is the difference between an amulet and a talisman? Okay. First of all, they both protect. They both protect. An amulet is worn to protect you from sorcery, to help guide you to prosperity, even. A talisman is meant to be hung. It is meant for protection, and it's either got an engraving of a magical alphabet or an image. Look at the hieroglyphs in ancient Egypt. Or how about the old ruins of ancient Mesopotamia? These things are all around us throughout European traditions, not just African Caribbean traditions, not just Eastern or Western philosophies. Every single religion has had these things, from the Jewish people to the Judeo Christians to Islam, even pagans and so called Wiccans. Look at the old names. Delve into the old names such as the Hexa, the Eshi, the Aji. Get into the Strega or the Strigoi. Okay? And you will see that they all have certain things that they utilize for protection, for offensive magics, things that will enhance their sorcery, and then apply these things to your rituals and your rites. See how you can benefit from them. See how you can incorporate them into your sorcery. What's working and what doesn't. How do you make that same calculation? Last year, after the breakup between me and my ex, I performed a very powerful hex on an enemy, one that I was just sick and tired of. Okay? I didn't give a shit what happened to her. I was in a very vile place, I was in a dark place, and I cast a spell. And while I was performing this ritual over a week's time, all of a sudden, night after night after night, images started coming into my mind while I was chanting, while I was spitting vile curses at the effigy, linking it to my target. And before I knew it, I had gone to Hobby Lobbies and purchased a box. And I created not only a hex jar, but a Dybbuk box. And I combined them. My patroness literally had me combine both of these. So all the ingredients that I had wrapped up in that one hex, I had the circle of brimstone powder. I mixed in with sea salt, crystallized bath salts, okay, black salt even. I had 3 black candles and a red candle. I had carved the individual's name into it. I had nails, rusty nails mixed in. I had the effigy. I had drawn the seals of intention upon it. This is all theory and practice. When you develop a working ritual that literally will bring benefit or ruin to your life, to your enemy's life, to your client's life, even, be it for healing or destructive means, be it lust or compassion or destructive. That's if you want to follow the satanic way of doing things. Okay? If you get into brujeria practices, you're going to have 5 types of magic that you have to learn. 5 types. That's quite a bit of magic right there that you're learning the applications to. Whereas a demonologer only works with demons, specializes in, say, for example, exorcisms, if you will, cleansings and banishings. A diabolero, on the other hand, not only can do these things, but can take that demon that is so hostile to humanity, can't even associate with humanity, and put it on a target, an intended target, to make them suffer. Adding blood sorcery into the mix enriches your rituals. Now I'm talking pricking your index finger, dropping some blood onto an effigy, a link, something that is personalized to that target. You're bringing it into fruition. You're making the ideal ideology of what can be, and you're bringing it into reality. Remember, you're the alchemist. How do you bring it from a theory into a working model? That's why you want to be dedicated to building your garden. It does not matter what topic that you're relating to. It does not matter what you're trying to achieve. You want to focus on yourself, your studies, your practices. You want to be able to create things. Okay? This year alone, I have created gopher powder. I have created black salt. I have created scorpion oil. And yes, that is very toxic, by the way. I have even gone as far as creating oleums for myself. I have been specializing in creating phylacteries, either to be hung or to be placed on a desk, a table, something that can be one of your average things. But mostly, I've been focusing solely on psionic warfare and spiritual warfare through vile black magic. That is my speciality. Okay. But it does not mean that I can't learn how to use herbs to heal. One of the things I've been working on recently is reversing the degradation of my injuries that I've had over the years, such as arthritis in my joints because of knee injuries, because I blew out a shoulder, which created nerve damage. Okay, learning to create herbs, herbal remedies is something that is very good. Learning the body, learning the nervous system, learning the muscle structures. When you learn, for an example, if you're learning about a severe subscapular strain and sprain, you're going to learn about the different muscle structures that allow the rotator cuff to move. Okay. You're going to learn, okay, this is the muscle that was affected. It also affected these other muscles. Okay. So, how do you strengthen and overturn that injury? If you break a bone or you have surgery, what happens? You have to go to a physical therapist, right? But what about alternative medicines? What if you want to go to, say, for an example, let's go to, for an example, I'm going to pick on the Chinese. Okay. Very smart people, very smart. I got a lot of respect. And this is why. You look at how they've perfected medicine, perfected the body, literally taken the depiction of the human brain, what part of the brain operates what part of the body. Look at the muscle groups, get into acupuncture, how to stimulate that nerve to get it to work more profoundly, more benefitly, how to stimulate the muscle in such a way that it gets rid of nerve pain or pain when you go to move. Okay. How do you know this stuff if you don't study, if you don't apply it through experimentation? Okay. It would be like getting into Bushido, the way of the samurai. How do you become a master swordsman if you first don't learn how to wield it? More so, how do you even make a sword if you don't learn alchemy? Ancient Sumar had a method called the fire and ice method. Rapid heating and rapid cooling created them and forged the most potent steel. Now think of the discipline that it takes to become a master samurai, a master of death. But go into the Hungan or the Mambo, get into the so called witch today, the Brua, for an example. These are all considered to be white light practitioners, right? For lovey dovey type stuff. But yet, if you ask them, what kind of herbs do you use for healing? 9 times out of 10, they can't give you an answer. They claim to follow a tradition, but yet they cannot answer you. You see, there comes a time in your life when the world ceases to matter. You're not going to be chasing after that latest tale. You're not going to be getting mixed up in drama. You're not going to be getting mixed up in worldly events, such as the latest war, the latest, well, Democratic or Republican turf war. Who cares? You're going to be dedicated to your studies. That's all that's going to matter to you. So when you dedicate yourself to building your garden, it's about you, your studies, not somebody else. Who cares what they think? A lot of people go, oh, you're doing it wrong. Really? How do you do it? Well, that's not correct because this text says this, that text says that. So Christianity comes into play, and it's, well, what works for me is not going to work for you. What works for you is not going to work for me, right? Well, every religion has this. But the one thing that every religion has, what every philosophy worldwide has, is dedication and commitment to your path, to your studies, to your personalized growth and evolution. You want to become a god or goddess in the making? Then put the time forth. You can't just pick up a single book and go, I'm a master of darkness. No. I've been a practitioner for over 30 years. Started when I was 11. I'm now 44 years old. I'm still learning. I'm still practicing. I'm still learning new things. This path is not for everybody. So don't think it is. Whatever you preach, always back it up with numerous sources, and whatever you say, remember that you are responsible for what you say. That means you answer to the public and to those spirits that you serve. You are the ambassador between the spirits and the world. All right? Correct. The personal work to get there is what separates the magician from the dabbler. That is correct. And that is also correct. And that's the one thing you'll notice on social media today is that everybody thinks that they're correct. There is no room for humility. There is no room for humbleism. It's all about pride. It's about profit. It would be like in a relationship, when you first get into a relationship with a woman, just as an example. And when you look at this, you get interested in somebody, say they're from your area, and you reach out and say, hey, just seeking, you look interesting, I want to get to know you, you want to meet up. And they're like, yeah, you want to hook up? Sure, why not? And all of a sudden you got a list of prices. Okay. And it's like, fuck. It's a prostitute online, right? Well, guess what? block block that person and move on to the next. But if you start finding an individual that you really relate to, you've been talking for a little bit, and all of a sudden they ask you for money. Okay, you're working, right? Okay, then why don't you split the cost 50-50? Okay. So when you look at it, okay, let's say for an example, let's go with, let's say for an example, you're going from South Tucson to Bangor, Maine. That's 2,995 miles one way. So you're looking at around $300 just in gas money. Okay. And that's if you have an older model. All right. So some of these newer vehicles, that's if everything's working properly, there's no issues with your vehicle. You can probably go 3, 4 states on a single tank of gas. Okay. So if the total amount is $300, then, and that person is coming to see you on one trip. Okay. Let's say, for an example, she's willing to come to you the first time, then she needs to put 150 up front. You pay the other 150. This is the balance factor. Okay. But if she's not willing to put her money where her mouth is, why should you guys put your money forth? You see the point there. Look at everybody wanting to sell a product that they claim is satanic. Anybody can put the word dark or satanic before any item. It does not make it so. Anybody can write a book claiming this or that, but without actual facts, sources, references of where they got that material from and how they developed their formula, then you're not going to know who they are. And in that case, they are nothing more than dabblers spewing broken things. How do you know they're fact? How do you know if it actually works? Because they claim it does? No. This is why when I purchase a book, I read it 2 or 3 times through to get a sound, grasp on what the book is about. And if it has rituals on it, I'm going to study that ritual. I'm going to go out and get the materials that it claims that you're going to need. Okay. And then I'm going to apply it in the same manner as put forth in that book. Okay. Just to see what the results and applications will be after that fact. But if I don't get any satisfactory results, I'm going to look at that ritual and I'm going to go, okay, let's see what I can do here. Okay, this reminds me of this type of ritual from, say, let's say, for example, the magical squares out of the Grimoire of Armadale. Okay, now let's use planetary and hours of the day or night, for an example, from the Clavicle of Solomon. Let's use the particular spirit, say from the 72 Goetic spirits of Solomon, that is used from the Grand Grimoire to the Constitution of Pope Honorius, even the Lesser Key of Solomon. Okay, there's literally regurgitated materials today that's been rewritten so many times. How do you know if it's even accurate? Okay, just because it's based off similar ideology doesn't mean it actually is truth. If you look at today's version, go back to the false hierarchy of demons, and then go back to, say, Edward Arthur White's work of ceremonial magic, or the Book of Black Magic. Okay, and now take it back all the way back to, say, the Jewish Haggadah. Okay, go back even further into, say, for an example, the original origins of the spirit's name. You're going to see different spellings, different meanings, different classifications. All right, so this is why it's good to know what you're practicing, what you're preaching. And once you've done that and you've looked at the ritual, and you're going to go, okay, this particular method does not work for me. Let's see what I can do with it to get it to work for me. Okay, so you may use let's say, for an example, if you're going for monetary gain, you want to have a particular amount set forth and say, okay, I'm going to call Boone forth, and I'm going to ask him for, say, let's say, for an example, $500 or $900. Okay. Now, we're going to use the magical squares found in the grimoire of Sacred Magic of Abramelin the Mage. Same setup. Okay. Now let's go into the planetary. We're going to use, say, for an example, let's say, for an example, we're going to do a destruction right. How to make an enemy lose finances. So we're going to use the art of Saturn, the planetary time of Saturn, and we're going to use the nocturnal, magics here. So you're going to use, say, for an example, let's go with the executioner. Okay, the executioner himself. Then we're going to use, say, for an example, Boone. We're going to use the agents of destruction, such as Samael or, say, Abaddon. Okay. We're going to use Asmodai, the demon of wrath and desire. Okay. And you're going to bring all these spirits into play, but you're going to have one main spirit that you're going to work with within this particular element or depiction of the magical squares. Now, outside of that, you can have the 5 points of, say, a pentacle inside of a circle. Okay, so you're going to go into geometric shapes. So you're going to have 5 candles, and underneath those candles, you're going to have 5 particular spirits of vengeance or destruction. Now, in the center, you're going to have the 4 demonic princes. Okay, Satan, Lucifer, Belial, and Leviathan. And in the very center, you're going to have the main deity that you're going to be working with. Okay, such as, so let's go with Alistar, or let's go with Abaddon. Okay, Abaddon's great for destruction rites. It really is. Or if you want to do it right, go with Pazuzu, the Harbinger himself. Let's go with Azrael, even. Okay, so you use, like, say, Azrael, the angel of death, and you use the seal, the planetary seal for destruction. You would use the character of that particular moon phase or that planetary phase. You would do it between midnight and 3 a.m. when that person is in a Z state of slumber. Okay, but you would also utilize the particular design of that particular level or degree that you want to use from the clavicle of Solomon for that planetary motivation, if you will. Okay, so if you have module 1 that is about disintegration of monetary, you got phase 2 or module 2, which deals with death and dying. Module 3 that deals with, say, for an example, business loss, whatever. You're going to be utilizing each, one of these for that particular rite, that particular ceremony. And you really want to have a clean manner. You want to be able to wash your mouth. You want to wash your hands. You want to be in full ceremonial robes. You want to have everything lined up. So when you go into that temple, that theory and application is going to manifest in the desired outcome that you want. So you have to have all your ducks in a row. And to do that, you need to know what you're doing. Today, you see too many coming into play. They've read a book like, say, The Satanic Bible by Anton Szandor LaVey, and they think they know it all. Well, how long have you practiced? About 2 years? 6 months to a year? Wow. And you're referring to yourself as a demon? You're referring to yourself as a master of or Lord of Darkness? No. Before I performed my first demonic evocation, I spent 7 to 10 years. I was just out of high school before I performed my first ritual. And that was with Zaniel, the teacher of witchcraft. That took me almost 7 months to get him to even open up and talk to me. So if you can't sit there and say that you're wrong, or that you are not right about something, you're not a practitioner. If you're more interested in the world than your own studies and practices, you're not a practitioner. There's a difference between a magician, a sorcerer, and a dabbler. Now, even if you get into the works of darkness put out by E.A. Koetting, for an example, he labels off everything from the novice to an expert level practitioner. Even he's still learning after all the years that he's practiced. But again, it comes down to both healing and destruction. You are literally holding on to that balance. And you got to do it within humbleism, the lack of ego. If I've done something wrong, or that, say for an example, if I said something in one video and I realize after the fact that I said something wrong or I quoted something wrong, the next video I do, I will acknowledge that, because it's a matter of humbleism. It is a matter of saying, hey, I was wrong in that instance. This is what it actually said. This is actually what I meant by that. Okay. So that's a matter of humbleism, and it's a matter of bringing yourself to being able to be a true practitioner. Okay. So the Dark Tower is right on that. See, that's cultural. Okay. If you actually, most of the time when you get into, say, for an example, a relationship, LK, Christianity, or the main JCI, the Judeo Christian institutions, this means Hebrew, Judaism, Islamic, and mainstream, along with Catholicism, from polytheistic and monotheistic, man, I can't even speak today, monotheistic perspectives, says that a man should bring back home the bacon. Okay. That a woman has to be subservient to him. Okay. This goes back to proto Roman times. Okay. So when you look at how society is run today, there's a reason why the man is the head of the household. Okay. The man is seen as the provider, the protector. Okay. A woman, her job is to make a home, to multiply meals, to multiply the family. So in today's society, in a woman's mind, you as the man has to pay her for her time. Even if you get divorced, okay, you owe her child support, alimony, half your belongings. What is there for an incentive for a man to even get into a relationship? So even if we take that prosperity, that prospect, that little bit of gnosis, and we go into the applications of a prison setting, okay, a prison setting brings forth anywhere from $48 million a year area, okay, to house inmates. Now, what is a man in a relationship? You're basically a prisoner to a woman's whims. They can threaten you. They can threaten to leave, take your kids, take half your shit, your home, your car, whatever, and you're ordered to pay X amount. Wow, what is there for an incentive, right? Wow. Hmm. See, again, let's go back to the depiction of the Amari. The Amari is a love spell. It brings your partner to you, or it can bring somebody for a night of passion. You can destroy a relationship, you can put one together. Practitioners don't get the luxury of being happy little campers. The path that we walk is a solitary one. It is a solitary path for a reason. That's why we are unlucky when it comes to finances and when it comes to love, even. So even then, we can perform rites for other people, but yet we have a hell of a time fighting that uphill battle to even provide for ourselves in that magical, manner. So I mean, if you cast a spell for $1 million and you bring out, say, let's go for, let's go with 8 pillar candles, okay, of the color green. Okay, you draw the sigil, you write the amount that you want, and you perform the right night, day in and day out, and you continuously light those candles. You're not going to get it. Now, I did an experiment about a month or two back where I wrote $1 million, just $1 million. Okay, I figured this would have paid off the debt. It would have paid off my car, my ex's car, paid off, college debts, whatever, and helped, my mother, pay off her debt and such, but also to kind of give me a comfort zone where I can just tell my current boss to go fuck himself, fuck herself, in a sense, because nobody wants to be a low end of the totem, especially when the hierarchy is filled with women and all the men are at the bottom. There's really no prosperity there. So it's like a dead end job. So when you want to start your own business, you have a nice little nest egg, right? So you go out, you purchase, those little gaming cards, let's say 4 of them, and then you get a lottery ticket, say 2 lottery tickets on one thing, and you play the Powerball aspect of it. All of a sudden, when that time comes around, you're disappointed because number one, you didn't get shit off the fucking cards. Number two, you didn't get shit from the Powerball or the lottery. So it's really 1 in a billion that you even get a chance to get a small amount of money to even booster yourself a little bit or your ritual. So the only enrichment that you have is your own reputation. That's all you got. But society has certain standards. The legal system has its standards. So you're literally caught between a rock and a hard place, literally, as that old expression goes. So right there, a man is screwed no matter what he does in this day and age. You want to get with a woman, you got to pay for it to play. It is what it is. But for right now, I want to thank Camilla Sloth 29 for jumping on here with me. I want to thank the Black Tower for jumping on here with me, along with LK. Remember 2 things. Whatever you preach, always back it up and always make yourself available to the public. All right? That's theory and practice. Have a good one.